All right, well, we will go ahead and get started just to make sure we have plenty of time to answer any questions you guys may have. So thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Digital Marketing Essentials, with Scott Clanin of Clanin Marketing. Before we get started, I just have a few quick things to go over. I want to begin by thanking our co-hosts that have helped us with today's session. We have the Champaign County EDC, Champaign Center Partnership, the Community Foundation of East Central Illinois, the EDC of Decatur and Macon County, launch at the Champaign Public Library, the New American Welcome Center at the University YMCA, the Rantoul Chamber of Commerce, the University of Illinois Research Park, and Visit Champaign County. I'll also include all links to all of those partners in the follow-up email so you can check out their sites if you'd like to as well. And then just for a few quick housekeeping things, as always, you are welcome to ask questions throughout the session. We just ask that you submit those via the chat box. And once Scott is done with his presentation, we will cover those. And you'll also receive a follow-up email that will go out first thing tomorrow morning. It will include both a link to the recording of the session so you can go back and revisit any of the information. And I'll also include the link that Scott shares at the beginning of his presentation that will take you to the Clanin Marketing website to download a copy of today's presentation. So at this time, I'll hand it over to Scott and we'll get started.
Excellent. Thank you, Jordan, and good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for our Digital Marketing Essentials webinar. I'll be sharing my screen, so one moment while I pull that up. All right, Jordan, just confirm, can you see my screen?
Yep, you're good.
Excellent. All right, so again, welcome to our Digital Marketing Essentials webinar. This is one of my favorite topics. This is actually the topic that I gave for the first time with the SBDC about, 5 or 6 years ago that really helped kickstart our webinar series. So we're going to be covering a lot of really cool things in today's webinar that kind of highlight things beyond just social media. I think that's what a lot of people think of when they think of digital marketing. So I'm excited to share some tips and tricks with you. A couple housekeeping items on my end. Like Jordan mentioned, if you'd like a copy of today's presentation, you can go to claninmarketing.com/workshops. Just scroll to the bottom of that page and you're going to see a For Attendees section. Just fill out your name and email, and again, you'll get a PDF copy of today's presentation. We've partnered with the SBDC and that long list of amazing community partners to bring you this series of free marketing webinars throughout the year. That full list can be found on the SBD's website, and we also have a list of upcoming marketing topics at the top of this site too, again at claninmarketing.com/workshops. Like Jordan mentioned, my name is Scott Clanin. I am the owner and president of Clanin Marketing. We're a full-service marketing and design agency based in Champaign, and we serve clients all across the Midwest. Digital marketing is how we got started. We then started branching into website design, storytelling, video production, graphic design. But there's always going to be a part of me that really enjoys digital marketing. I think my first memory of digital marketing was when I first created a business page for a company I was working with back in 2006 or 7 on Facebook. I think before, or was it 2008? Before Facebook could even accept business pages. And so a lot has changed throughout the years in the world of digital marketing, and that's beyond just social media. And so we're going to cover a variety of things on the call today. So this is our agenda. I want to talk a little bit about branding and why that's important to think about. Let me make sure I'm pausing. Can you still hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Music started playing on mine. So, so the agenda for today, we're going to talk about branding and why that's important to think about when you are diving into your digital marketing strategies, your targeted audience, website, most importantly, analytics. Analytics, we're more of a metric-driven company, and I really work to empower all of our clients to understand what their metrics are. Working in marketing over a number of years, I know how hard it can be to determine how successful some campaigns were. And so it's really important to look at, how are my social media accounts performing? How's my website performing? How did people get to my website? And what decisions can I make from those metrics that I'm getting in? So we're going to talk a little bit about analytics. Of course, the big one, search engine optimization, SEO. This is how you rank higher on Google search results. In our eyes, that is marketing gold if you can get some of the top spots in Google search. And then search engine marketing, SEM, a little bit about that. We're going to just touch a little bit today on social media presence and marketing. All of these, from website design, we're going to talk a little bit about Google My Business, SEO, and social media. Jordan and I have a separate topic just on all of those in our workshop series. So be sure to visit that full list. And if you have any other ideas, maybe it's something that you've struggled with or you just need a little more clarification on, feel free to email us. We're always thinking of ideas of new topics to add throughout the year. And so we'll be working on those for kind of the second, third, and fourth quarter of 2023. So be sure to ping us if you have some other ideas. All right. So let's get started. Let's first talk about branding, just real quick. So branding, building a connection between customers and a company, service, or product, establishing a brand that customers trust. It's really important before you dive into any of your digital marketing strategies to understand who you are as a company. Excuse me. When a lot of people think of branding, they think of a logo design or what colors you're using or what fonts you're using, and that's great. But there's more to branding than just what's called brand identity. Again, that's where a lot of people think of branding. It's why are you in business? What's your mission? What's your core values, right? What's your brand tone? Are you more buttoned up and professional? Are you more casual and approachable? So that all ties back into branding. Again, we have a separate webinar just on that, but I wanted you to think about your brand before we dive into some of these digital marketing tactics. And as you're thinking of branding, we'll do an exercise here in a minute, especially in the world of digital marketing, understanding who your audience is, or if you're in a rebranding phase, who do you want your core audience to be? So who do you want to talk to? Where are they on the internet? And what's most important to them? The beauty of digital is that you have a lot of incredible targeting options at your fingertips. Whether that be running a campaign through Google, running a campaign through some of your social media sites, the hyper targeting that you can set some of these campaigns is kind of creepy on the back end. An example I have is we're helping one of our clients advertise and market this wedding showcase show that's coming up. And when we're working backwards and thinking of, well, who are we trying to target? Who's our core audience are going to this show? The easy one is engaged couples. So on Facebook, we can run ads to people who've marked themselves in the relationship status as engaged, and then target certain counties within the central, east central Illinois area. So anytime you're filling something out on Facebook or filling out kind of a Google profile, those platforms are using that information for targeting purposes. So the books that you like to read, the pages that you like or interact with on Facebook, whether it be about camping or hiking, they're probably going to place you in a bucket of, okay, these people are interested in outdoor activities. They know when you recently got a new job, when you change your job title, or you have a birthday coming up. All those are targeting settings that we as advertisers can use when we are running campaigns to individuals. So as we go through some strategies today, think about who's landing on your website, who's visiting you on Facebook, right? What's their income, their gender, their age, their hobbies, lifestyle choices, values, etc. So if you've been in any of my webinars before, you've seen this slide. This slide is really important to think about, regardless of what you're doing, whether you're building a new website, you're shooting a new video, always think about the end user. Who's your targeted audience? So the example I have, let's just think of Ford for a minute, right? Certain things come to mind when you immediately see this logo, right? Trustworthy, they've been around for a while, American made, probably pickup trucks, right? People that work in certain industries. So if we, again, this is kind of just a brainstorming exercise. If we were the marketing department at Ford and we wanted to market this new Ford pickup trucks, again, think about your targeted audience. Who are you looking to target when it comes to this pickup truck? Well, think of who's the type of person who's going to buy that pickup truck, right? What's their, on average, or typically, what's their gender, their age, but most importantly in this case, what are some of their jobs, some job titles that one would hold that would warrant them to buy a pickup truck. I think a lot of us probably think of construction worker. When I've done these exercises in person, I hear a lot of farming, agriculture, and that makes sense, right? A lot of farmers have pickup trucks. So if we take that a step further, now we've identified, and again, this is just a very quick example, but we've identified, okay, we have the pickup truck. Who is the person that's going to buy this truck? Break it down further. What are some of their job titles? Let's say we land on farming. They're a farmer, great. What is a farmer always doing? They're out in the field, they're in equipment, right? But if they're on their phone or on their computer, what sites are they visiting? In this case, a lot of farmers are always checking the weather, right? The weather is super critical when it comes to farming, especially around planting or harvesting time. And so if they're always checking the weather, that could be a platform to consider. Weather app, any type of weather-related sites, running digital ads for this pickup truck on weather-related sites. And so again, this quick example just kind of shows how do we take a product, think of who the target audience is, and think about where they're spending their time online, so then we can build some sort of strategy, some sort of digital campaign around that. Same thing with Mercedes-Benz, thinking of their brand. This is more of a high-end luxury product, those that have more of a disposable income. And if we were advertising one of their kind of convertible roadsters here, again, this is someone that probably has a more of a director, CEO, that kind of C-suite level position, has a pretty high income, probably a little more in tune with what's happening in the world, what's happening in the economy, in the stock market. They're checking maybe a lot of the news, Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, et cetera, right? They want to know what's happening in the world. So again, that's how you can kind of plan out, and a very quick example, but that's how you can plan out what's your product and how do we get to the finish line with building a campaign, thinking backwards from the target audience. One of the most important things when it comes to digital marketing outside of just social media is your website. We always say your website is your hardest working marketing tool, and it's because it's constantly marketing your products 24/7. When you're on vacation, when you're taking probably a much deserved break, your website is always marketing your product. It's your best salesperson. And this is something that a lot of people tend to forget about, or they don't invest enough time or money into a website that doesn't then accurately reflect who they are. This is your first impression, right? This is kind of the home base for a lot of us, a lot of our companies or organizations. Everything lives on this website. So we really, if you do have limited funds to start with, if you are just starting out, or maybe you're a nonprofit organization, if anything, I would put as much as you can into the website, just because it is your hardest working tool. As we're on the topic of website, I want to go over some trends that we've seen just over the past couple of years, things to keep in mind when you are maybe auditing your own website. And that's another word too to think about, is auditing. Go to your website, but putting yourselves in the shoes of your customers. Maybe it's been some time that you've been on your website. Go through all the pages, read all the copy that you have. Is it an accurate reflection of who you are today? Do the photos represent who you are? Do you use maybe a little too much stock photography versus your own custom professional set of photos that you can work with a local photographer on? So audit your own website after today's call and look at and write down some areas for improvement. But just some overall website design trends. This has been around for some time, but I always include it right at the top because it's really important to make sure that your website is responsive. It does respond to different mobile devices, whether that be an iPad, a tablet, a phone. Your website should render for those sites. If you're unsure if your website is technically what we call mobile friendly, you can go to Google and just type in mobile friendly test, and then just enter in your URL and the first result that comes up. And Google will do a quick scan on your website and let you know if your site is mobile friendly or not. This doesn't just affect user experience on the site, but this also affects how you rank on the search engines. And we'll talk a little more about search engine optimization in a minute. but just make sure that your website does look good on these devices. Over the past 5 to 8 years, we've seen a major shift in the percentage breakdown of people going to your site. And mobile use continues to be on the rise. More people are typically, depending on what industry and who your target audience is, typically visiting your site from a mobile phone. So make sure that it looks great regardless of what platform that you're on. We're seeing this trend of less is more. So maybe copy that used to be 2 to 3 paragraphs are now just a couple of sentences, and it's paired with a really tight high-level video or looping video that's kind of on a background homepage banner. We kind of, as a society, I feel like we don't have a whole lot of time anymore, right? So when we're looking up something, we're quickly looking at reviews to see what other people say. We want to land on a website and get to what we're looking for right away. So we're seeing this kind of trend of cutting material, cutting copy down, streamlining a bit, and making the navigation very easy to swiftly move through the website. We're seeing a lot of flat design, so using 2-dimensional or flat images, or just kind of flat, really cool icons or graphics on the site to help break content up. At the end of the day, you don't want to land on a website that is overly busy. You have a lot of patterns and colors. You have all different font sizes and fonts themselves. What that does, it really distracts from the message that you're trying to get across right when someone lands on your page. We'll talk about what's called the bounce rate in a second. But your goal as a marketer, as a business owner, is when someone lands on the page, you need to keep them on the site for a little bit. You won't keep everyone. But if Google starts seeing that a lot of people are hitting your site, not spending a whole lot of time, and then leaving right away, that could actually start affecting your search engines and how you rank on those. So we'll talk about that here in a bit. But overall, think less is more. Nice, clean, tight, consistent, streamlined design. This is a big trend that we saw over the past couple of years. We'll see if it continues to be a trend here over the next year or two, but this kind of scrolling page, where for some of you on the call, you may not need a large website. Maybe everything that you do could really fit within just one page, where instead of clicking around to a lot of internal pages, you have everything set on just one large page. And as you continue to scroll, you scroll into different sections on the site. There's a variety of different terms for this. I call it kind of this single scrolling page, or the scrolling page architecture. It doesn't work for everyone, but for those, again, who don't have a whole lot of copy, who don't have a whole lot of products or services, this is great to get everything across in kind of just one experience when someone lands on your site. My biggest recommendation is high quality photography and video. If you have, again, just a little bit of money to invest, I would say your website, and then second, definitely think of videos, or I'm sorry, photography. We've built numerous websites over the years, and what we found is we really can't rely too much on some of our partners providing us with the photos, because a lot of times they're photos that are shot with your mobile phone. And so you don't get the highest quality image. A lot of times they're vertical. We need a nice horizontal photo for a homepage banner. Photography can really make or break the overall aesthetic and feel for your site. So try to invest in some type of photography if you can, whether that be good headshots, team shots, general shots of you in the office. If you don't have an office, is there somewhere recognizable in town, and a patio at a coffee shop that you could take some nice outdoor photos? The one thing I'll give you, and if you're taking notes, definitely write this down. Make sure you're not pulling photos just from Google and using those on your website. We had a case where a company we knew ended up getting a letter from a lawyer on, hey, this photo is from Google, you don't have approval to use this. And then, thankfully they were able to resolve it. But make sure you're not just pulling anything from Google, because there are some copyright infringements. If you don't have a whole lot of funds, investment to create this kind of custom set of professional photography, I like using 2 sites. One of them is called Pexels, Pexels.com, Pexels.com. and the other one is unsplash.com. Again, that was unsplash.com. Both of those sites are commercial free stock libraries. So you can use those for whatever you want. You don't need to give credit to the photographer, and you don't need to pay for it, and you have the rights to use those photos. Of course, unlike like Shutterstock or Adobe Stock, you're very limited. So if you're looking for something very specific, you probably won't find it in there. But if you need something really quick and easy, and you don't want to worry about trademark issues or don't have the funds right now to pay for it, those two sites are great for just getting some content for your website or for some of your social media accounts. Creative infographics, illustrations, bold typography is also a big thing. You know, when we design websites for clients, we go through and look at kind of the first look of the website. We always want to pull out different titles and putting that into a bolder font. If there's any stats or information that we can put within a really cool infographic, what that does, it helps dress the site up a bit more. Where maybe once you had 3 paragraphs pretty much saying the same thing as you would if you had a really cool graphic explaining all that. And as consumers, we really don't want to read a whole bunch, right? We just want to go to the site and see what catches our eye. Creative infographics, bold typography, good colors, good layout is going to make us stay on the site a little bit longer because we won't feel overwhelmed and we can find what we're looking for right away. Okay, we're going to move on to segue over to Google Analytics. Again, this is in relation to your website design. Google Analytics is a free program from Google. There's no subscription cost at all. All you have to do is make sure you install it on the back end of your website. Very easy, or if you have a website developer, just make sure to work with them and bring this up in some initial calls, or circle back to them to see if maybe they did already install Google Analytics on your website. I always say install it as soon as you can, even if you don't have a whole lot of time to dive through this new platform, dive through these metrics. The reason I say install today is because it will only start tracking your data once you install it. So you can't go back in time, unfortunately. It will only start collecting. So the sooner you can get it installed, then you can start building this library of metrics that you can then go back and look at. So overall, Google Analytics, you can monitor effectiveness of online marketing strategies, user experience navigation, functionality, and more. There's so many different reports to run. We certainly do have a whole separate webinar just on digital marketing metrics, and we talk a lot about Google Analytics. But in Google Analytics, these are reports that I find myself running a lot. I love looking at the source and medium report, where people came from before they hit our website. I think a lot of times we end up maybe sponsoring something or running an ad on some sort of website. How many clicks did we get from that sponsorship? How many clicks did we get from that advertisement? Analytics can tell you, again, you got X% of traffic over from Facebook, over from Instagram. You know, if you're in a position where you have to maybe report to a director or report to a board of directors, these reports are incredible because they're coming from Google and it's showing whoever's reading it that, wow, thanks to our efforts on social media, it's helped bring in 45% of our traffic to our website over the past year. And that's a 20% increase from the year before. Google will tell you all those. Now, I will say in analytics, there's over 200 reports that you can run, so it can get a little overwhelming. So just focus maybe on these to start. Get a lay of the land and then see where you get. The last thing before we move on from Google Analytics is if you already have Google Analytics on your website, Google is transitioning this platform to what's called Google Analytics 4.0 this coming summer. So this summer, June or July, the old version of Google Analytics will retire, and you need to make sure that you're on the new 4.0 version of Google Analytics. And again, I think we have a separate webinar on this, but just keep that in mind. And you might want to do a little Googling to see how do you connect a new account or transition it. But this summer, they're making a big change to this platform. Okay, I want to talk about the other thing when it comes to bounce rate. It kind of brought up bounce rate in a bit, but I want to give you an example. You have your website for your business or organization, and you have 2 people that are coming to your site, let's say from Google. Person A lands on your website, and this is exactly what they're looking for, right? They land on it, good content, they're scrolling through, and they click through maybe your services page, your contact us page, or your about us page. Great. Person B comes over from Google, they land on your website. This isn't what I'm looking for, right? Maybe it took way too long to load. Maybe it was just way too cluttered. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. They didn't click into any other page on your website. In that scenario, you have a 50% bounce rate. And so what I say is if you have a bounce rate over 50%, more in the maybe the 60, that 70% range, that tells me something's not quite right with your homepage content. Something's not resonating enough to the user that lands on your page. So again, this is one of those classic examples of we may think it's great, but really what it comes down to is how your targeted audience, how your end user is interacting with your website. While we might think it looks cool, how are they actually using it? And this is where bounce rate comes into play. So if I see a homepage with a very high bounce rate, we need to look at, do we change some of the copy? Do we change some of the imagery on the page? Is it taking too long to actually load and render? Maybe you have a ton of really high quality images or videos on your site that are slowing the site down, causing people to not want to stay on the site and bounce. Now, I will say not all bounces are bad. You won't get a 0% bounce rate. People will always go to your site and leave. Some people, and we've all done this, you go to a website, you scroll down, you're just looking for a phone number, you're just looking for an address or maybe a social media account. They got what they needed and they're out of there. Not necessarily a bad bounce, but still classified as a bounce. So again, if you're over that 50, more in that 60, 70% range or higher, that tells me that there's a little improvement that we need to make on your homepage. Okay, let's talk about search engine optimization. SEO is what a lot of people call it. I get a lot of questions about Google and how to rank higher on Google. And it's really important to first think about how Google works before we dive into it. We've all gone to Google, you type in something, and in less than a second, we get some incredible results that are generated. Really, when we're doing a Google search, we're not actually searching the live web. I know that sounds crazy, but Google has already done the searching for us. And so they have these little bots that go out on the web and they collect all this information. And when they're doing that, it's called crawling. They're landing on different websites. They're picking up information, keywords, the layout of your website, just site hierarchy, page titles, page descriptions, everything about your website. These little bots are picking that up. And then they bring it back to Google. And then think way back in the day before computers when libraries had card catalogs. This is really what you're searching. You're searching Google's digital card catalog, if you will. And they bring it back and they index it. So when you perform a Google search, you're actually searching through Google's card catalog, the old school library card catalog. And that's why we as consumers get very good search results within the top, one or two search ranks at the top. Very rarely will we ever go over to page 2. And if we're going over to page 3, 4, or 5, we're getting pretty desperate, right? And so that's why it's really important to make sure that we are ranking high. But in order for us to rank high, Google has some very high standards because they have kind of that level of quality that they're looking to reach. We go to Google because we always find what we're looking for. So they want to make sure that they are presenting their customers with the best possible search results. And so there's a variety of things that can affect search engine ranking. And the one myth I want to clear up is, oh, I get a lot of calls maybe, and this company says that if I pay this month, this much money, I can rank higher on Google. That is not the case. No money is going directly to Google to rank high on the search engines, unless if it's from a Google ad at the very, very top, which we'll talk about. Everything below those ads is what's called organic rank, non-paid ranking. And again, this is no money going to Google. This is all about how your website is designed and laid out. That is what's going to affect search engine ranking. And so when I started my company back in 2015, we were on page 8 of Google, which is the graveyard. You don't want to be on page 8 of Google. So everything that I'm sharing with you today, we bit by bit started making some minor adjustments to our page. And now we've ranked on page 1, sometimes rank 1, rank 2 for different search queries. So at the end of the day, publish relevant content on your page. If your page is all about running shoes, make sure your page has running shoe keywords across the site. Big thing to think about is what's called your metadata, your title meta description, and then your meta title. This is what pulls up on the homepage of Google. So if you go to Google and type in, for example, like marketing company, this is where our title will come up. It will say Clanin Marketing, line, Champaign, Illinois, and then that little description at the bottom. We've all seen that, right? And then when we want to click a website, we click the title. That's your meta title and meta description, making sure that you're adding in some of those keywords in that meta title, meta description. A lot of times people forget to set those if you are designing a website yourself, and then that can really skew a lot of things when it comes to search engines. The other thing is, if you have a lot of hyperlinks across your site, stay away from just saying click here and then hyperlink and click here, but instead add some keywords and then link to those keywords on your site. You also want to make sure that you don't have any broken URLs. I have it on this list on your site. Broken URLs, of course, you don't want to click on something, it goes to a 404 error page, and Google doesn't want to send you to a page that's littered with broken URLs. At the end of the day, unfortunately, there's not one solution that fixes all of your search engine optimization problems. It's a combination of a lot of things. So making sure that your site is mobile friendly. You have high quality content. Why? Because people will end up spending longer on your site. If Google sees that, gosh, people are hitting this page, they have high bounce rates and only spending less than, oh gosh, I don't know, a minute on this site, we're not going to rank this as high because obviously this isn't as relevant or as useful information as what we would like for us to rank high. Page load time, making sure that your pages are loading pretty swiftly. Industry average right now is 2 seconds or less. Image optimization, this is a big one if you're taking some notes. This is, if you were to type in red barn in Google and you go to Google Images, what are you going to see? Probably, hopefully, photos of red barns. But something to think about is when you are uploading photos to your website from your camera, from your computer, a lot of times that file name will say image475.jpg, just some nonsense. Changing the file name to include keywords that are relevant to that photo is going to help add more keywords to your site. That's going to help you rank higher over time. Making sure you don't have broken links. There's a lot of broken link free scanners that you can have scan your website. You have good layout and formatting. You of course have a contact us page. There's also something called your sitemap. This is a little advanced, and we can certainly talk about this more in our search engine webinar. But through Google Webmasters, or Google Search Console is what it's called, you can take your sitemap, your blueprint of your site, and give it to Google. So if you have a new product or service that you came out with, you added a new page on your website, instead of waiting around for Google to crawl that page and bring that information back to that card catalog, you could tell Google, hey, here's everything you need. I added some new websites or new pages on my site. Here's the new site structure. You can submit your sitemap to Google directly, which is kind of cool. So again, all different things that can affect your search engine ranking. Another thing that affects your search engine ranking, we're giving, this is an example of Champaign County Economic Development Corporation. This is what's called your Google Business Profile. This is what shows up on the right-hand side of Google. We've all seen this. You have photos, you have the street view typically, you have the title of your business, address, phone, etc. This has really changed over the past just couple of years. Google and many other platforms have expedited a lot of cool features to help us as marketers and business owners communicate with our customers. This is free. The only thing that you need to do is make sure that you are verified. Some of you may be new businesses on the call. And so if you don't have a Google listing, you could just go to Google Business Manager, I think is what the title is now. They've rebranded it so many times. But you will essentially get this, if you can still see me on the screen, a postcard that comes in the mail within a week. And then on this postcard, you're going to get a PIN number. You essentially just add that PIN number within the back end of your account, and then you're now verified on Google. They want to make sure that you are an actual business with an address. And for those on the call who might be working from home, maybe you're a home-based business, you can still be listed on Google, and Google can hide your address. They're still going to send you the postcard to your home, but you can say, I'm a service-based business, meaning I meet my clients or customers at their place of business or over coffee. I don't accept meetings at my place of business. I don't want my home address shown. Instead, it will just show a radius of the area that you serve. So again, this is a free profile from Google. This is where you can respond to reviews. I always recommend responding to both positive and negative reviews, because that's how it shows how you respond to certain situations. And a lot of times, if there's a really nasty review about your business online, it all comes down to how you respond. And we've all done that. You know, there's a lot of times I wrote off that person because it's like, okay, they sound, you know, kind of crazy about that review, right? So instead, it's like, wow, this business responded very promptly. They were kind about it. Looks like they tried to resolve the issue. So now I'm on the business's side. Versus if I see a lot of negative reviews that are unresponded, it shows me maybe the business just doesn't care. So make sure you are responding to those. You can keep your customers up to date. You can actually post updates, almost like a Facebook post, to your Google Business Profile listing. If I was to continue to scroll down a little bit below reviews, there is a new little section where you can add some posts in there. You can add offers, coupons, etc. Just some really cool stuff. A lot came out during the pandemic. So of course, you can set your hours. You can add special hours. And so if you're in the hospitality industry, if you have a restaurant, please, please, please set your special hours. I can't tell you the number of times I've gone to a place of business. We've all done this. And on Google, it says they're open, but then I pull up and the business is closed. And that's just because they maybe got busy and they just didn't have time to set their special hours. But this is where you can go in and set hours ahead of time. We know we're going to be closed on Thanksgiving or on Christmas. So on this day, when someone tries to Google us, make sure to set us as closed. You can set all of your special hours. And then for those, maybe, again, you're in that kind of restaurant, bar type business, you have what's called these more hours, right? You have, here's our brunch time, our delivery time. We have happy hour, the kitchen. You know, there's a couple bars in downtown Champaign where the bar will stay open for, you know, until 2, but the kitchen closes at midnight. So you can set separate kitchen hours. So that's a new thing that came over the pandemic. And then if you maybe need to, you know, I just drove past a business today and noticed that they were temporarily closed for a remodel. It made me immediately think of this. You can mark your business as temporarily closed if you just want to take a break for a little bit as you do something maybe within the business. And lastly, on this topic, for those of you who are a new business on the call and you're about to open in the coming months, a new feature that came out is that you can set when you expect to open. So you could say opening June 2023. So you can at least get your name out there and get a Google business profile out there. And so that's a new thing that just came out a couple of years ago. Of course, no one's really posting COVID-19 updates anymore, but there was this whole separate section of COVID-19 offers that you can give to people. What's new, what's happening in the business, any events that you have coming up, etc. So it's a really cool tool. At the end of the day, it's free and you can't beat that, right? All right, should we take a breather? How are we feeling? Let's talk about search engine marketing. So we talked, just kind of recap, we talked about your website, our hardest working marketing tool, analytics. We talked about then getting your business on Google, getting your business on the Google profile, and then how to rank a little high on Google. Google Ads. This is now we get into some paid strategies, right? Everything we talked about, except for, of course, spending money to develop a website. Those are really that non-paid. Now we're talking about search engine marketing. So going back to Google, if you were to Google something at the very top, you might see that little ad icon that's next to the listing. That's pulling from Google search ads. Google has two different platforms. They have the search network and they have the display network. The search network, ads are triggered once someone types in a certain keyword or phrase into Google. So I can say, gosh, if I want to target people looking for website design services, right? Then I'm going to write a campaign where all my keywords are related to website design. And then you have the ad show up. What I love about search ads, it doesn't work for every industry, but what I love about search ads is that you have someone proactively searching for what you have to offer. You want to show up in that case. And a lot of times their cost per click are CPC strategies, meaning you only pay when someone clicks that ad. There's no long-term agreement. You can start the ad one day and stop it and pause it the next day if you wanted to. But a lot of times, a client may be paying $1.50 a click, $2.50 a click. It really depends, again, what competition looks like and what your market area is. But in my eyes, that's money well spent because you have someone searching for what you have to offer, and now they're on their website and you spent $1.50. So that is called the Google Search Network. And then they have the Google Display Network. These are display ads, image ads that are displayed across many different sites across the internet and then shown to those individuals. One thing to think about, let me mute my phone here. One thing to think about is Google Ads is a little complicated at first. It's kind of an advanced program. So maybe starting with what's called Google Smart Campaigns, it's kind of the entry-level version of Google Ads. And if you're already a part of this, the Google My Business, you have your Google Business listing, I believe in there they have a shortcut to run ads. So you can get up and going pretty quickly. I do recommend people maybe starting in the entry-level program as they become more comfortable and graduate over to more of that advanced Google Ads system. So just like we talked about the example, if I was typing kids furniture, you see that ad that comes up at the very top. You control what that title is, you can control what that description is, or give Google a variety of different options where they can interchange the title, interchange the description based on what you provide them. And like with anything digital, you can track to see how effective it was, how many clicks you got, how many phone calls you got. So it's really cool. Google Display, these are ads that show up all across the internet, whether you be on maybe News Gazette or some sort of news publication, blog sites on the internet. A lot of those ads are pulling from Google Display. And these are people that may be interested in a certain topic. These are people that may be, that one time they were interested in what you had to offer. And you can set where your ads appear. So maybe you just want to show your ad on certain sites. You can do that. Again, it gets a little advanced, but you have a lot of options available to you. And of course, I think later this year, we'll probably have this workshop again if you're interested. But this is a strategy in the world of digital marketing called retargeting or remarketing. And these are those ads that tend to follow you after maybe you land on a website. So when I moved into my new home in 2017, we had a home gym in the basement. And this is a screenshot that I took. I was in the market for some new weights. I needed to get in shape. And I was on the Bowflex website. And then like anyone, I left and did some more research or watched some videos. Well, then over the course of the next few days, I start seeing this ad. And it says, still thinking it over, come back and save. This is really cool. And you can do this within Facebook too. Again, this is not a beginner level strategy, but it can be very effective if you are tech savvy. And if you find this could be really useful to you, to circle back to someone who once had an interest in your product when they land on your website. So again, that is all through the Google Display Network. Little tip here, if you're interested in learning more about Google Ads, they of course have a lot of cool resources online, and then they can also help you identify some keywords that you can use within your campaign. And they have a cool keyword planner through Google Ads. Yep, right there, that screenshot here. You just type in Google Keyword Planner and it will get you there. All right, we're coming up to about 10 minutes here. I can't believe Time has flown by, right? So the last thing I want to just summarize real quick, just because I know a lot of us probably already know the importance of social media. There's, of course, a variety of different platforms. Some of them I don't even have on here: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. Within Instagram, of course, there's stories, there's reels. I will say this, right now, the future on social media is video. Video content, whether that be a professional video that you shoot or quick little videos that you record with your phone and post them to reels. A lot of content is moving more towards video-based content. I will talk just a little bit briefly on TikTok and my thoughts on TikTok. Right now, we as a company, we are continuing to monitor TikTok. If you thought about it, maybe continue thinking about it. The reason why I hesitate on TikTok and just doubling down is really think about your market. Is your target audience on that platform? Is there enough people within your market to warrant a lot of time and energy within that platform? But it's going to be interesting to watch over the next coming few years, because government, the United States government has banned TikTok on government devices. And then a number of universities now are starting to ban TikTok on their Wi-Fi networks. So right now, we're just telling some people it's a great platform, certainly try it out. But if anything, if you want to still have a similar experience with those short creative videos, and you already have a presence on Instagram, really tap into then Instagram Reels, because then you don't need to build a new following on Instagram if you already have one. So these are platforms that we use a lot. Facebook, if you haven't already, it's more than just boosting a post. A lot of people think Facebook advertising is just boosting a post, and there's a great great use cases for boosting posts. There's certainly a time and place for that, but there's more ad options available to you outside of just boosting, where you have more creative control of the content and your targeting settings. And so if you go to, I didn't have it in here, but if you want to write it down, Facebook Ad Manager. This is the platform to go to when you are wanting to run an actual campaign on Facebook. It will ask what some of your marketing objectives are, if you want to build awareness, consideration, or work to build some conversions, and then choosing what format you'd like. A carousel ad is my personal favorite. Those are those cards that you see that you can swipe. Each one has a different image. Each card can be linked to a different site on your website. I just love how versatile that is. Single image, you can show video. There's a lot of really cool things. The one that came out about 4 years ago is a lead generation ad. It looks just like an ad on Facebook. But if maybe you're looking for people to sign up for something, whether it be a newsletter, a free demonstration, schedule a showing, all these can be done through a lead gen form. When you click the ad, Facebook already has all of our information. Again, it's creepy, but it will pre-populate that form with my name and my email. I don't have to do anything. I click next or confirm, and I have sent my information to that company that I want to hear more from without even leaving Facebook. I didn't have to go to their website or go to their contact form. So that's kind of a cool creative ad type that I like to share, as a lot of people don't realize that's an option. As we wrap up here, a couple things. If you like more information about Facebook, and Facebook owns Instagram, they have Meta as their parent company. There's a site called Meta Blueprint. It used to be called Facebook Blueprint, but there's a lot of really cool courses on here. If you're a marketer, you could get certified from Meta and get a certification in Facebook advertising. There's some really cool things, cool case studies. Again, that's all through Meta Blueprint. And then make sure you are using Facebook Business Manager to manage your page. You have a lot of really cool backend options, access to all of your insights, what's happening on the back end of your social media accounts, and more. Just some apps that I like to have on my phone. Of course, Google Analytics, if I'm wanting to see upticks or swings within my website on the go. Google My Business, great for responding to reviews online. Google Ads and Facebook ads, if you are running some paid strategies. I always like to just keep an eye on those to make sure that nothing was declined from those platforms, that they are running pretty smoothly. So again, just some apps that I personally have on my phone that I recommend. All right, so that brings us to the end of today's webinar, some digital marketing essentials. Like I said, today is really that tip of the iceberg, as I know we covered many different types of digital marketing strategies and platforms. Like I said earlier, we have separate standalone webinars just on a handful of these topics: Google Ads, digital marketing metrics, branding, website design. But this is the one where it's really meant to kind of get you thinking. Maybe you spent a lot of time on Facebook, but are you verified on Google Business? Have you spent some time auditing your own website, or maybe building, you have some extra funds, you want to maybe build a search campaign on Google? There's a lot that you can do in the world of digital marketing outside of just social media to help kind of round out and build out your overall annual marketing strategies. So at this time, I'm going to hand it over to Jordan to see if we had any questions that came in.
Great, thank you, Scott. Right now, we only do have one, but please feel free to submit those if you have them. But the question we have right now says, I use Meta Business Suite on Facebook, but I don't love it. Can I get back to regular Facebook Business Manager?
Unfortunately, no. And trust me, I hear you, because it can get complicated. Even going from, like I mentioned, the old version of analytics to Analytics 4.0, that was a learning curve for me, because things are in different places. And I feel like a lot of times it's overwhelming. They give us way too much that we don't need. But if you think about it, a large company that has a huge presence on Facebook is using the same backend platform as a small coffee shop, right? And so there's no different tiers of backend user interface depending on the page. So unfortunately, no, I don't believe there is a way. I think it's one of those things that we just have to kind of embrace and figure out, okay, I can ignore these page menus over here. This is really the areas that I need to go into. So.
Okay, this next one has two questions, so I'm going to do one and then we'll cover the second one. It says, I have been using Hootsuite free account for social media posts. I just got an email that they are discontinuing it. Do you recommend any other platforms with similar functions?
That is a good question. It really depends on what you're using Hootsuite for. I was a big fan of Hootsuite. We used to use Hootsuite for a lot of things when we're trying to manage multiple accounts, try to monitor different activity on that account. I don't know. I mean, there's the one I've heard of is called Sprout Social, but I haven't looked at it in maybe a year or so, and I don't know if they've changed different tiers, because a lot of times there is kind of a free entry point to that platform, but like any other product out there, there's subscriptions, right? You pay for different things. And so Sprout Social is one that I know of, but again, it might be one of those, it offers way too much, and when really you only need this. I think there are some built-in scheduling options on the back end of Facebook if you are looking to schedule out some content, which is good. But no, unfortunately, I don't have any other kind of recommendations that would replace Hootsuite.
Okay, and then that person's second question said, if someone's looking to branch into social media advertising, what do you find is a good budget for it?
Yep, that's a tough question. So the example on that is, one thing I like with social media marketing is that you don't have a contract with Facebook or Google. You can just run it and stop it or pause at any point. Be very careful when you are setting up ads within Facebook that you do set end date and you do set a lifetime budget of what you're looking to spend. The budget question is always difficult, because if it's working really well and you're getting returns from that, you probably want to invest more into it. So the example I'll give is going back to the wedding expo is, we're targeting people who are engaged within our local area. And so at first we had that run for about a month, and with a $500 budget, we just want to hit it, hit people immediately with this content. As you're playing with budgets on the back end of Facebook, and you're playing around with where you want to run the ad, Facebook will give you a little indicator that says your target audience based on this budget is too broad, too narrow, or it's just right. You want to make sure you're in that just right column. And again, you can play around with different numbers. But the big thing that I always look at are two things. And one of them is called click-through rate, your CTR rate. This is your impressions versus the amount of clicks you got. So if I say, hey, your ad got 20 clicks this week. You don't know if that's good or not, right? Is that good? I don't know. If that ad was shown to 40 people and you got 20 clicks, you have a very high click-through rate. Versus if you got 20 clicks and that ad was shown to 500 people, that's a very low click-through rate. So that tells me it's really not about the budget, it's about the campaign creative. But the example for that wedding, the wedding expo, is what's called frequency. And so we set a $500 budget for a month, and we kept an eye on the metrics throughout the week. Frequency is the number of times someone sees an ad. And so you want that frequency to go up a little bit. You want someone to see the ad a handful of times. Once frequency starts hitting that 6 or 7, you want to stop the ad as soon as you can, because you don't want to annoy people by, gosh, I've seen that ad one too many times. We've all seen that, right? So in this case, they've only spent about $250, half the budget, and already frequency was at 7. And it's just because you have a limited pool of people within that target audience. So I don't have a flat number that I give people, because it's all different based on the industry, your target market, your audience. But really keep an eye on the metrics that are coming in that will help you decide, gosh, this is a perfect amount, or I need to stop the ad, or I need to add more to my budget. So unfortunately, I can't give a number, but there's a lot of different things that you can look at to help kind of quantify how much you should spend in the future. So, and definitely look at Meta Blueprint too. They should give you some ideas for budgeting, and depending on maybe what industry that you're in.
Okay, great. The next one says, do you have an opinion on changing your business name if your services have expanded past the original name?
Yeah, I would say, without knowing a whole lot of information, we look at that as a rebrand, and a rebrand is always that window of opportunity, that window of time something's happening in your business. Whether you're adding new services, you're targeting a new group of people, that's a great time to rebrand. So I would say, yeah, that would be a good time to maybe change the name.
Okay, and as a follow-up to that one from someone else, but they kind of relate, says, do you think it's smart to convert your personal social media accounts to a business account, or create a whole different account? For example, using a personal account for a real estate business?
That's a great question, and I would say convert it to a business account, because now you're able to run ads. You're able to run those campaigns, to boost posts, to look at insights. So, what's the makeup of your audience that are following you on Facebook, male versus female? What times of the day are they online? So there's a lot of insights that are available to you from a business account that you don't have access to from a personal account.
All right, great. That is all of our questions, I believe. Let me do a quick scroll here real quick and make sure I didn't miss anyone. We are good, it looks like, but I will go ahead and reiterate, like Scott said, we do have other sessions that expand on many of these topics scheduled throughout the first quarter of the year. And then we are always looking at additional topics for the remainder of the year. So if anyone has any thoughts, or if you see some consistent things come up between you and your friends that are business owners and things like that, please let us know. We're always brainstorming new topics and things like that. And if any other questions come up, you're welcome to reach out to our office or Scott. And just a reminder as well, you will receive the recording. So I know it's a lot of information, and especially the questions and answers, since there weren't slides with that, you can go back and revisit Scott's answers to those as well.
Perfect. All right, well, thank you so much for joining us on today's webinar, and we hope to see you at one of our next ones. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.